Basement of La Penta. This is WICR.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Sports Vault. I'm your host with the most, Jersey Joe Archino. If you're waking up this morning, clearly you are waking up to the result of a wild Thursday night football game. The Denver Broncos defeating the Kansas City Chiefs 31-24. And if you had to kind of name one man of the match, look, I think there's a lot of them for the Broncos. The defense was tremendous, but you've got to go with Peyton Manning. You knew a lot of people were going to overreact to the Week 1 performance, especially without throwing a touchdown pass for the first time in an opening game since 2003. But you look at Peyton, and again, when you look at a quarterback in the NFL, his mental game is just as strong, if not stronger, than his physical game. And clearly Peyton's physical game has declined and has been declining since the neck surgery. But for him, it's always been about the mental preparation, the mental awareness of the football game, how to recognize things. Still watch Peyton at the line. There's nobody better. There's nobody who recognizes what the defense is showing better than he does. He is just a magician when it comes to just recognition of the game and understanding the game of football. And that's one of the reasons why he's still going to be able to keep going strong. Because again, those balls aren't going to have the same touch on it, but he's always going to be able to figure things out and find ways to win because of his keen awareness of the game. And, I don't think Peyton's ever really been that gunslinging guy throughout his career. A lot of, you always hear the phrase, the noodle arm with Peyton Manning. But again, throughout his entire career, I don't think you could ever really even say that he was known for that type of thing. He's always been the guy who just always understood the game of football, how to move his team down the field smart and just take away everything the defense is trying to do to him. And it's been with efficiency. It's been with supreme crisp passes. That's always been what he does, and the Broncos are off to a 2-0 start, and really, you got to be happy with what's happened there because you get two big wins in a row at home against the Ravens. You go to Arrowhead and beat the Chiefs, and they were up 14-0 in that game at one point. It hasn't been pretty, but if you're Gary Kubiak, I don't think you'd ask for much more right now. And then you go over to the Chiefs side, and my thoughts on the Chiefs have always been, this is a football team that's always going to be good, but I don't think they're ever going to elevate to that great level. And that's because you look at them at the end of the day, and it's that Alex Smith competition type of thing. Alex Smith is a guy who's a very good football player, a very good quarterback, but lacks that explosive edge that you need at some point. Everything is sometimes slow and methodical. They work their way down the field. And really, the point is just made ever so clear by the fact that last year they had no touchdowns to wide receivers. That's the mentality of that Chiefs offense. They don't really have too many big plays down the field with a vertical passing offense. They want to keep it quick. They want to keep it moving down the field, slow and methodical. And when that happens, when you're turning the football over, that's when you're starting to get into trouble with them, because when you start going for those big explosive plays with a guy like Alex Smith, that's when the turnovers start to happen. It's really been throughout his career, and last night, the two picks from him, clearly the ones that were the killer, though, were the ones from Jamal Charles. And again, Jamal Charles is a guy who really is very good with ball security, is not turning the football over very much, but when that happens like it did last night in the big situations, clearly that's not how you win football games. But just the momentum of the game last night was just all over the place. It really was excellent. We had a good college game last night too, with Clemson and Louisville, but this kind of took the cake in everybody's eyes. I mean, I walked around campus, saw the TV on in every dorm, everybody's watching the game, and all eyes were obviously on Peyton Manning, because we all kind of have something invested in Peyton Manning, because he's really that kind of guy where you can't really dislike him. He's just always been quiet, has done his work, and his story is kind of like our story. Peyton has tasted success, but he's also tasted a lot of failure, and I think it's really a reflection of all of our own lives. He's been to the top, but he's tasted that agony of defeat so many times. He really is all of us. So I think we all have vested interest in what he does. And especially last season, the last time that we saw Peyton Manning, it did not look pretty. The last time was against the Indianapolis Colts in the playoffs, and we were all asking the same question. Is Peyton done? has Father Time caught up to him? And certainly in some regard, you could say from a physical standpoint, Father Time has certainly caught up to him, which is always the case in sports. But again, that mental game in the NFL is just as important, if not more, than your physical game. You can keep playing quarterback in the NFL based on your instincts, your ability to just understand the game of football, because Peyton doesn't need to have a cannon of an arm anymore. He's got guys who can work the ball down the field. We saw in the final drives of that game, how many times did he go to Demaryius Thomas? A guy like Demaryius Thomas, you just work your way down the field. Emmanuel Sanders had a terrific game. He's got good backs behind him. And the biggest thing for him this year is how solid that defense has been. That defense bailed him out in week 1 against Baltimore. Peyton really didn't look good in that one. But you know what? In this second one against the Chiefs, it was the defense helping set things up, made a lot of plays, and then Peyton also returned the favor. And you've also got to look at it at one point, and I heard an interesting comment. I forget who made it last night, but somebody said, this is one of the just happiest I've seen Peyton after a win. And I don't think I disagree with that. You watched Peyton's body language and just his reaction to getting that win last night. Now, clearly, anytime you win a game, you're going to be a happy camper. But there was just something different about just how he looked and how just inspired he was by that one. And I think you can kind of tell from a Peyton's perspective, he knows that this is it. Every single game he takes the field now, this is going to be something that's never going to happen again to him. And I think he's starting to get a little bit nostalgic in that regard because, look, this is a guy this has been his life. This is the only thing. This is a guy who's sitting in a room on a Thursday night at 3 a.m. breaking down film of the Chargers and the Chiefs. This is the life that he's known for so long. It's the thing he loves to do more than anything. And, you got to think he's soaking it all in, just taking everything in one last time. And that was a big one last night. It really was, especially after the way that things went. He had that streak for so long since 2003 with an opening touchdown pass in every opening game, and that was broken. And clearly there was a lot of people, even myself, doing segments. Is this it? Should people be worried about Peyton Manning? Has Father Time finally caught up? But he silenced a lot of us last night with what he did, and obviously all of us are still keenly watching that AFC West battle because that could have been a just gigantic momentum changer for the Kansas City Chiefs. I think everybody looks around that division and finally thinks, look, Denver's more vulnerable than they have been since the year Peyton got there. The Chargers, you would think, take another steep step forward. The Chiefs looked sharp in week 1, but Denver really solidifies themselves again with that big win last night. Moving into a little bit of the week 2 matchups, though, huge matchups all over the place. Definitely a very good slate of opening games for this week 2. We will be back in a minute. Don't go anywhere.